so we are going to be starting a series on theology, theological filters, what's the good ones, what's the bad ones, which one do you have, maybe you know, maybe you don't know. I think it's important that we kind of go through this information and really figure out who we are, what the foundations of our faith are, because a lot of times we don't know. We don't know exactly what we're trying to say to people, what we're trying to say to the world. We just say, I'm a Christian, and for most of us, that's good enough. But the problem is when hard questions come, when tough situations happen, we are kind of just out at sea without a life preserver because we haven't taken the time to build or figure out what our theological stances are. So today, we're gonna dive through a couple of those just briefly, and I think we're gonna make this into a series really diving into these theological understandings and these systems a little bit more, so hopefully you can know where you fall. I think I found where I'm at, and then we can compare and contrast and see if the theology that we hold, that we believe in, if it really points back to the person of God, the person of Jesus, or if these are just religious systems we've got caught up in. So let's catch that intro and then we'll dive in. Okay, so I've been doing ministry for quite a while now, and I've met young people, I've met older people, I've met, middle-aged people. At some point in your Christian journey, hopefully, you've come across the idea of, or somebody kind of telling you theology. What is theology? What we believe at this church versus that church, or this family versus that family. And it may seem minor to you, it may seem like something we just squabble about because we can, because humans just like to argue or just take sides on a particular point. And that can be true sometimes. However, there are some pretty big differences between different theological beliefs. And what I've come to find out, I used to just throw away theology and say, whatever, as long as you love Jesus, as long as you love God, it doesn't really matter. I've kind of taken a 180 on that approach now, only because I don't think that we have to get bogged down in the idea of theology, but I do think it's important that we understand why we believe what we believe. And can we back up what we believe? Because I feel like a lot of times Christians just say, oh, I believe this thing because the Bible said so. Okay, well, show me where it says that. And then maybe they can show you where it says that. And then you can say, okay, but how does this line up in context with the chapter, with the book, with the time? And how does this line up with the person and the nature of God? That's when a lot of Christian arguments start falling apart because they haven't gone through and really tried to figure out the depth of what they believe. These aren't bad Christians, not saying they're not saved. I'm saying that I think sometimes we have to dig deeper to find out what we believe and why we believe it. So today I kind of wanted to talk about two different belief systems, two different theologies. Now I know for those scholars out there watching, you're gonna say, man, there's way more than two. I agree, there's absolutely more than two. I just want to talk about the two dominant ones that I at least see in churches in America today. You may have another belief system, you may believe in one of these two, or you might be sitting there saying, I have no idea what I believe. I didn't know there was anything more than just being a Christian. Cool, this video is gonna help you out. So let's talk about the two main belief systems in American Christianity. I can't speak to other cultures or other countries. I'm not exactly sure where they're at, but I still think this is dominant in most places in the world. So first off, you are going to have Calvinism. Calvinism is one of the, if not the most thought out theological systems, and it is a systematic theology, one of the most thought out systems in all of theology. Think of it as far as Christians go, their Declaration of Independence. I mean, point by point, it is just a beautifully written expression of theology and expression of faith and why they believe what they believe. That can get really tricky though, because a lot of people will just say, well, since it's written so perfectly, so well, that has to be the system that's correct, that's true. I would be careful with that, and I don't want to dive in too much into Calvinism now because we're going to do that in another video, but I would be careful just diving into the thing that looks like it has the most depth and detail to it, because we can still have holes in our belief system even though it's been really well thought and really well written. So the second theological stance I want to talk about today is Arminianism. Now, A lot of people get confused. Arminianism is not necessarily a theological stance on its own. Arminianism is kind of a response to Calvinism. It doesn't stand on its own. It's definitely not as well thought out or written out. Really what Arminianism was an attempt and a response to poke holes in Calvinism. If you've studied this at all, you know that it does a decent job at that. It causes Calvinism to ask a lot of questions that maybe it didn't address because it was kind of stuck in its own theological bubble and its own filter. So Arminianism is a response to Calvinism and saying, hey, what about this? So as we go deeper into this series, we're going to find out a lot about what we believe. I would challenge you, if you're watching this before the next videos come out, or if the next videos have already come out, stop what you're doing, don't watch the next ones. Take 3 minutes. Get a piece of paper, write down, here are 5 core things I believe about my Christianity. And maybe you have some deeper theological roots and understanding. Write those out. Let's really see where we're at on the spectrum. So as we begin to go through this material together, you can say, check, yep, I believe in that one. It still holds up. That is a great belief system. Or you can look at a particular point, a particular belief system and say, okay, maybe I didn't think this one out as much as I thought I had, or maybe I just took what someone else told me and didn't take the time to study it myself. Here's why I think this is important. A lot of us Christian Americans, we go to church on Sundays, maybe we go to church on Wednesday evenings, we take our kid to youth group, we might have a Bible study, we might have Christian friends, and all of that is good and fine. What I found over and over and over again is a lot of good people who are just taking their pastor's word for it, who are just taking the YouTube sermon they listened to that week's word for it. There's nothing wrong with listening to your pastor. There's nothing wrong with listening to someone preach a sermon on YouTube. All those are great things and you should continue to do that. However, if someone says something that is a theological stance, you should pause and say, do I believe that? And if I do or don't, why do I or why don't I believe that? Test every spirit. So I don't think the average Christian is as inept as maybe we thought we were. I know a lot of times in church we talk about we have the pastor and the leadership and then we have the congregation. Some churches might call them the sheep, the flock, whatever. That's fine, I get that. But I don't think you and I are necessarily sheep in the sense that we can't discover these things on our own time. In fact, I think if you really want to take that next jump in your faith, exploring these ideas is critical because then you're going to be able to listen to someone else speak on a Sunday morning or in any sermon and say, whoa, hold on, I don't know if I believe that, or man, I really do believe that, and I believe that because of this, this, and this that I've studied and that I've looked up. So let's go deeper. Let's dive deeper. Let's see what happens when we start to challenge the borders of our own faith and see if we don't get deeper. Now, the idea of all of this, let me just, as a final disclaimer, the idea of all of this isn't so that we're just smarter or more educated. That is awesome. That is a great benefit as a Christian, knowing the context of your faith. That's not really the goal here. The goal here is to strengthen our relationship with Christ, strengthen our relationship with God, and I believe we can't do that until we actually start to find out things and details about the person. The best way I can explain this is, I've been married for almost 5 years now. I love my wife, but there's still things I haven't figured out about her yet, and there are things that I may never figure out about her. But the journey and finding out the little things she likes, the little things she dislikes, is what makes our relationship deeper. It's what makes it stronger. So I don't think we can just say, oh, well, let's just throw theology away. It's all about relationship with Jesus. None of this belief system stuff matters. I think that's unhealthy. I think you have to know what you believe about the person so that you can better understand the person of Christ, so that you can have a deeper relationship with Jesus. So that would be my final disclaimer, that this is not just an educational course. This is to expand the borders of our faith so that we have a deeper relationship with Him and we're not drawn away by every crazy theological stance we hear. We can stand firm and say, this is what I believe about God because of this. So I hope this is perking some of your ears up. I hope you're excited about these next couple of videos. I'm happy 2020, by the way. I know it's the new year, and I am planning on doing a video a week. So in the comment section below, if you haven't subscribed, please do that. But in the comment section below, below. Let me know if there's any topics or anything you guys want to talk about that we can dive in together with and go deeper and really figure out who Jesus is and why he did what he did for us. All right, you guys are awesome, and I'll see you next week.